More funding for housing today with a list of approved projects for the Northwest. Good evening and thank you for joining us. A national group which funds Indigenous housing projects has announced its list of approved projects for the Northwest, valued at nearly $29 million. The money comes from a fund included in the 2022 federal budget. Justin Hardy was at the announcement here in Thunder Bay and joins us live in studio. Justin?
Thanks, Haley. Federal Indigenous Services Minister Patty Hajdu and the head of National Indigenous Collaborative Housing Incorporated were both in the city to provide details of these major projects. Two of them are in Kenora, and there's also one in Thunder Bay involving 134 new smart home units. This news conference was held for what was described as a historic funding announcement. Federal Minister of Indigenous Services Patty Hajdu provided details of the projects involved.
The Reverend Tommy Beardy Memorial Family Treatment Center, who will receive $10 million for constructing 134 smart homes here in Thunder Bay. In Kenora, two of the projects that have received funding are the Seven Generations Education Institute, $10 million for the construction of 68 student, family, and transitional housing units with supportive services on site. Another one in Kenora, the KK Kozibi Development Corporation, $8.7 million to purchase 20 acres of land and build 24-unit affordable housing building.
The funding for these projects was included in the 2022 federal budget, but it took until now to solidify which projects would get the green light from the funding agency, National Indigenous Collaborative Housing Incorporated. NWO CEO John Gordon says it was a very complex process involving a project selection advisory council made up of housing providers from across the country.
Those individuals come up with criteria, and that criteria was need, community support, evidence that they could be successful in delivering the project, and they rated each proposal of 447. This was a volunteer group of individuals. They rated those with numbers, and so from 0 to 100. The green-lighted projects, which I believe was everything above 70.
Hajdu says the most exciting part of this funding is the transition of power by having an Indigenous-led entity be the one distributing the funding instead of the government.
You know, this is, as I mentioned in my remarks, a very colonial government with a very colonial system. And over the last 9 years, we've been really working to figure out how we restore power and control to Indigenous peoples where it rightfully belongs in matters that are deeply connected to family, to home, to nation, to culture, to identity.
Two other projects in Timmins and North Bay have already been approved by NWO. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
A rally is happening at City Hall this hour in support of the proposed centralized library location at Inner City Shopping Centre. It's part of the library's master facilities plan, which city staff is recommending council reject at tonight's meeting. Staff argue the centralization plan leaves out important costs like debt servicing, lost revenue, and pre-existing renovation plans. The rally saw about a dozen people attend from a number of local groups and has continued to grow in size leading up to the council meeting. Organizer Andre Rosario talks about the importance of the demonstration.
They're losing that perspective of how this helps the entire community in general. Like, it's more affordable for a lot of people, it's more accessible for people. So with the plans for the central library, it can increase the library space for over 40%, and it can also increase the hours of operations for the library for over 20%, which makes it more accessible for working families.
We'll have more on Council's library decision on our late edition news at 11. Thunder Bay Police have now laid charges following a collision back on July 3rd, which left two motorcycle riders with life-altering injuries. The crash occurred just after 11 p.m. at the corner of Arthur Street and Mountvale Avenue. The 22-year-old male driver of the passenger vehicle is facing 2 counts of careless driving causing bodily harm and 1 charge of being a G1 license holder not accompanied by a qualified driver. Ontario residents will be able to head to liquor stores tomorrow after employees at the provincially controlled retail outlets agreed to a deal to end a 2-week strike. CTV's John Musselman has more.
The strike is over, but the public won't be welcomed back into LCBO stores until tomorrow. After 2 weeks on the picket line, workers spent the day getting the stores restocked and organized. Premier Doug Ford says there is a future for the LCBO retail outlets, even with the expansion of alcohol sales into retail locations.
And it's going to be great for the people of Ontario. They have a choice. They have the convenience to go in the convenience store. They have a choice to go into a retail store, and everyone's hunky-dory.
The LCBO deal includes an 8% wage increase over 3 years, no store closures over the course of the agreement, and 1,000 casual employees to be permanent part-time positions. People we talked to today expressed mixed feelings about the strike and the expansion of alcohol sales.
We don't have to go anywhere else now.
Obviously, it affects other businesses like restaurants, you know what I mean? So I'm glad to see they're able to go back.
It was challenging to change the drinks, but everything worked out fine and we got through it.
Ford also blames the delay in getting the deal finalized this weekend on OPSU. Ford claims the union asked that striking workers be paid for their time on the picket line.
Imagine if that's taking your tax dollars for paying people that weren't working. It's absolutely crazy. So finally, they came to their senses. The leadership came to their senses, and we got the deal signed. People are back to work.
The union hit back, saying Ford's comments are untrue. The Premier's remarks today are unequivocally false. He is either purposefully lying or confused and does not understand the basic tenets of bargaining, including the need to negotiate a return-to-work protocol once a tentative agreement has been reached. There are 680 LCBO outlets in the province, employing more than 9,000 people.
That was John Musselman reporting. Fort William First Nation officials are asking their community members not to take matters into their own hands with homemade bear deterrents. Chief Michelle Solomon says the number of bears around the reserve seems to be particularly high this year.
Certainly this year we've had an escalating number of bears in the community. There's definitely been a couple of moms with 3-4 cubs trailing behind them. Bears are being a real nuisance in the community.
Earlier this year, the MNR warned that an early spring could mean more hungry bears out in residential areas. And although it's not uncommon for bears to come into the community in search of food, Solomon says increased bear activity has some residents turning to homemade solutions to keep bears out of the trash, including bleach-filled balloons and electrified garbage containers. The First Nation has issued a notice to strongly discouraging these practices.
If people use these types of methods to discourage bears, then their garbage will not be collected. We can't have our public works staff being put at risk by using these, bear booby traps.
They like the garbage boxes, and people can maybe put their garbage out on pickup day might help. So maybe when the berries come out, we'll see less of the bears. Hope so. And they were here first, and they're just hungry. That's all.
Officials are concerned the homemade bear deterrents pose a risk to people, pets, and wildlife, and Solomon encourages community members who are worried about bears to keep their garbage indoors until pickup day. The First Nation collects garbage twice a week for just that reason, and they'll be looking to the MNR for alternative interventions. Bears can also be reported to the Bearwise reporting line. One of Thunder Bay's busiest intersections will be closed tomorrow. Construction crews will be at Memorial Avenue and Harbour Expressway for most of the day to complete one of the final steps to rehabilitating the intersection. The closure will last from 9 o'clock Tuesday morning until around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's meant to allow work crews to install new traffic lights. North and southbound traffic on Memorial will be able to access the Harbour Expressway by right turn only during those hours. The new traffic lights are one of the final steps of the project, which began in May, with the goal of upgrading the intersection and its underground infrastructure. After its completion, work will then continue to repave the intersection and complete the necessary concrete work. Thunder Bay's Good Food Box program has celebrated the launch of their new website, thanks to funding from the Ontario Trillium Fund. Presentations and cake were on the agenda for the Packing Day volunteers, who then got right back to work. Jaden Billick has more.
The Good Food Box program is powered by over 80 volunteers, packaging and delivering 500 boxes of assorted fresh foods monthly. Those boxes are sent to various organizations across the District of Thunder Bay with the aim of increasing access to fresh and affordable produce. Executive Director of the area's Women's Center, Gwen O'Reilly, speaks more about the launch of their new website.
To increase access to the box and to account for the big horizontal structure of the Good Food Box, the big network, we would need a pretty sophisticated web platform. It is allowing us to have better access to our customers and our supporters, and it now has e-commerce options so people can order either a basic Good Food Box or a fundraising box online, and it also allows us to scale pricing so that everyone can afford to buy what they want from our site.
Over $60,000 was granted to the Good Food Box program by the Ontario Trillium Fund in 2022 during the midst of the pandemic, which forced this community-based initiative to go online in order to meet their customers' needs. This day was a celebration for the platform and all of the volunteers involved. Thunder Bay Superior North MPP Lise Faujois gave her appreciation to Trillium, O'Reilly, and the volunteers here.
It's a huge community builder. It's meeting a need for food access for fresh fruit and vegetables, locally produced, almost always, wherever possible. And it brings people together. Everybody gets a chance to work together, to eat together, socialize, and be part of something that's bigger than themselves.
O'Reilly adds the Good Food Box is always looking for volunteers, and if anyone is interested, they can check out the website for more details. Jaden Billick, TBT News.
School is out and summer vacation is on, but for many students across the region, the summer also brings their first job opportunities. Thunder Bay Superior North MP Patty Haidu was recently at Cinema 5 Skate Park talking about the local impact of the Canada Summer Jobs Program. Lee Noonan has more.
Cinema 5 Skate Park on Cumberland is one of many small businesses and nonprofits getting funding to hire young workers this summer. Thunder Bay Superior North MP Patty Haidu paid a visit to the indoor skate park to meet with some of those young employees and get a quick lesson in skateboarding.
So you can see some of the young people back here teaching even younger people how to skateboard and how to have fun. And it's also a huge boon to small businesses like this one. It's about $21,000 this business is seeing this summer.
Haidu says the program created 225 jobs in her riding last year, bringing nearly $750,000 into the local economy, and she expects to see similar numbers by the end of this summer. The program funds 100% of the salaries for nonprofits and 50% for public sector employees or small businesses like Cinema 5, which got funding for 4 summer jobs this year.
It is amazing to be able to give them that work opportunity and employment.
Skate park owner Vanessa Bowles says they're able to provide the young workers with a lot of training.
Not only skateboarding instructing, we have a Canada Skateboard program that we use, as well as we bring in outsiders to talk about how to support youth with autism and on the spectrum, any kind of disabilities, those types of things.
Providing those enriching learning opportunities is one of the priorities of the program. 16-year-old Miley Bakari says she's learned a lot on the job.
I've definitely learned to use my speaking voice a lot and be more comfortable talking in front of people and just leading in that sense. A lot of good leadership qualities, that's for sure.
The program also allows MPs to set priorities for their ridings, and for Haidu, that means favoring opportunities for Indigenous youth.
Oftentimes Indigenous kids will tell you that it's harder to break into that workforce, and that many kids, including people in my youth council last night, are still talking about their experiences of racism in the workforce.
The Canada Summer Jobs Program runs until the end of August. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Clouds of brightly colored powder were flying yesterday at Marina Park as part of the annual Festival of Colors. The event inspires attendees to throw their troubles into the wind while also celebrating Indian culture. Color throws happened every 30 minutes with an interactive dance in between. The festival is an Indian tradition that goes back thousands of years and is a joyful reminder to cast away bad feelings and worries. Organizer Prashant Jani says they've been hosting the event in Thunder Bay for around 10 years now, and he's overwhelmed by how much the community has embraced the tradition.
People of Thunder Bay are so kind and loving and compassionate and helpful that this event would not have been possible to grow to this extent without the help and support of community of Thunder Bay. First color throw, we had 4 people, and now we have 4,000 people. So it has grown considerably because of the help and support of local community members, businesses who help us years after year, and the volunteers who put their day and night to make this event happen.
The third annual Country on the Bay Music Festival was the biggest one yet. Organizers estimate up to 8,000 fans came down to Fort William Historical Park each day and night to catch all the acts. That included the headline performance Saturday night by Blake Shelton, who was joined by a very special guest. Jessica Clement has the story.
Saturday's lineup featured one of the biggest names in country music, Blake Shelton, along with his superstar wife, Gwen Stefani, as a special guest. The crowd went wild as the famous couple sang a couple of duets.
I swear I could be happy anyway. Any map, location, you're always my destination.
With getting Blake Shelton and Gwen showing up and Trace going on stage, you'll never see that in the Thunder Bay again, that kind of caliber on the stage at once.
The music and great weather continued on Sunday, the final day of Country on the Bay, as thousands of fans came back to Fort William Historical Park to take in the final acts of the festival.
She'll tear it up like denim. This whole crowd is getting loud, got a room full of rowdy.
Organizers are calling this year's event a huge success, with an estimated 8,000 people attending daily. We asked some country music fans what they enjoyed most about the festival.
It's been a blast. There's been lots of people, lots of little events to do. The music's been awesome, and especially last night with Blake Shelton, I've enjoyed everything.
Blake Shelton was fantastic, especially, the beers here were ice cold. The sun was out. It was a beautiful day.
I have absolutely loved it. My favorite part was when Gwen Stefani surprised us in the crowd and she came out with Blake. It was such a blast.
Country on the Bay President David Allen says the festival has grown a lot over the past 3 years, and the amount of talent they were able to get this year proves that.
And agents are here from Nashville today and yesterday, just seeing the layout and things like that to look for bands for next year for us.
I honestly think it's a really good opportunity just for the city to get on the map for a lot of bigger artists to come here, as I feel like we don't have a lot of opportunities.
Allen admits this year's lineup will be very hard to top, but they already have some ideas on how to put together the 4th annual Country on the Bay Festival in 2025.
With the caliber that was on the stage, it's going to be hard to fill the shoes, but maybe we just do something a little bit smaller scale and do 3 nights straight of that.
Jessica Clement, TBT News.
It certainly was a fantastic weekend weather-wise for all the festivals that occurred, but now we turn to Fiona to find out what we have for the week ahead.
Yeah, the weekend ended, all the events ended, and now we had some rain move in today. Moving across the region throughout the day, pockets of precipitation. Thunder Bay didn't really get hit all that hard. We had a couple of light showers at the end of the afternoon, but all in all, it was just mostly cloudy for much of the day and a little bit damp. But we did warm up to a high of 20, which is not seasonal, but with the humidex, it felt seasonal. So kind of works out. Winds were relatively light throughout the day, but rotated around, starting out from the southwest around 3 kilometers an hour in the morning, rotating around, so it kind of moved a bit for the most part, ending primarily from the east up to 8 kilometers an hour. Across the region at this time, we've got some sunshine in the fort, but they have had some showers move through. Then now it's cleared out, but there is more on the way. So I think folks there are just enjoying the dinner hour with the sunshine as it is. They're currently at 22, similar temperatures into Kenora. Red Lake at 21. They were under mostly cloudy skies. The humidex is making it feel about 3 or 4 degrees warmer than these numbers would suggest. But as you head further east, where the rain is still being felt in some areas, temperatures were quite a bit cooler up into Armstrong, 16, 14 in Greenstone. They had periods of rain for about 4 hours midday. Along the North Shore, they're in the mid to high teens, and Sault Ste. Marie, partly cloudy at 25 and a humidex of 28 at this time. Here in the city of Thunder Bay, we will drop down to a low of 14 overnight. We could see a few showers this evening. Slight risk of a thunderstorm popping up in the evening, but after that, we're down to just cloudy and a 60% chance of showers. Winds will continue to be light, primarily from the east, but about 10 to 15 kilometers per hour. And if you didn't mind today's weather, I have great news for you. You're going to get to experience it again. It's looking to be pretty cloudy and definitely cool, but as we head towards the weekend, temperatures are definitely on the rise, and I'll have more details on that later on in the News Hour.
Well, thanks, Fiona. Always good to see, a manageable week leading into a nice weekend.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But now we turn to national news, where there's been a major turn of events for the U.S. presidential election, as President Joe Biden has announced that he will no longer be running for re-election. We'll have the details on that situation after the break.
Recovering from COVID, Biden dropped his troubled re-election bid under pressure from his party, concerns over his age and ability to defeat Donald Trump.